by Hudson.
Take it easy and solve the school lunch problem with SPAM. S-P-A-M.
こんにちは、タイガークローラジオ。You are listening now. Fuck J.
You are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Number one in vintage computer and video game entertainment. And now your host, Critical Failure.
Welcome everybody to Tiger Claw Radio. It's been quite a week this week. Got a lot of stuff to go over. Got some good van casting. Got some good chip tunes to play. Speaking of chip tunes, let's not waste any time, shall we? It's episode 232, and I think for 232, we should have a party. You guys ready for a party episode? Because I know I am. And man, do I ever need it. Okay, guys, let's dip into the bag o' chip tunes. Don't have any new chip tune compilations for you, so let's start things off by heading back to that the Desk Pop Chip Win compilation, which, by the way, is still available. You can head over to TigerClawTV.com, and I did an article with a quick link over to pick it up. This first track is Morgan Lapis, and he's playing Fairy Mountains. Good stuff. Tiger Claw Radio. Can we just kick things off with something I just discovered? They are doing let's see. I want to read this exactly as Hemrock sent it to me, but it was quite a revelation. You guys familiar with the NES Mini and the SNES Mini? And then I never quite got into those things. They seemed a little bit. I don't know what to say. I think they would have been awesome 10 years ago, but they never quite hooked me these days. I think adult CF wasn't quite hooked, but. I was actually just informed earlier this afternoon that SNK Playmore is doing a Neo Geo Mini with 40 games, and it functions as a mini arcade cab, thanks to Hemrock, who let me know that. My goodness. I have got to look this thing up, because SNK... who owned a Neo Geo? Anybody? It's weird, because I don't think any of us owned Neo Geos, but those games... are still ingrained in my memory through emulation and through MVS cabs and through compilations that you could buy in other places. I gotta say, a Neo Geo Mini would be top notch. Also, I'd just like to point out, if you head over to TigerClawTV.com, I'm really proud of how that has worked out. I've been working quite a bit on that website, just making sure that if I see something out there that's awesome, it gets a spotlight there. I've also rigged it up so that there's a player right on the main page that connects to the Podomatic account. So you can stream in every episode of TCR. Just stream it on in. But by the way, I think I got the number wrong. I think I said this was 232 earlier. No. We're up to 233 now, which feels weird. It sure does. It feels very weird. But yeah, updates on Tiger Claw Radio, on Tiger Claw Radio's main page, TigerClawTV.com, have been almost daily. Let's look at some of the stuff I got up. Papa Pete, who has an older gentleman who's got a YouTube channel. He's a guy who was playing Atari games back when they were still coming out. So I found his videos really good, and he came out of the gate with some quality stuff. So that was really cool. Had a couple videos from Top Loaded Gaming, who I'm kind of new watching him. He's a guy who I watch a lot of Bithead 1000. So Top Loaded Gaming is a guy he trades with. So he was somebody I heard about quite a lot. DW Terminator did a video about Daggerfall that I thought was pretty good. And I have some Quake stuff and some an article about Open Hexagon, and just some cool things. So that's another thing you can keep your eyes on. All right. So that said, let's turn back the clock and we're gonna do some van casting. You ready? It's Tuesday morning because I forgot my phone when I went Monday. What's going on, everybody? It's the Vancast. We're going to talk about some video games. Video games! Spent last night playing a bunch of Atari, which is pretty cool. I got a bunch of games in from eBay, which is fun. I've built up a really small collection of doubles, which I'm hoping to use to parlay into perhaps Atari games that I do not own, which is kind of fun. So I played a game called Secret Quest for the Atari. This is it's got a little picture of Nolan Bushnell on it. It's specifically designed by Nolan Bushnell, at least according to the cartridge art. And I gotta say, I was kind of blown away. This is a little bit of like a Zelda clone. You got a top-down map. You pick up a sword. You can get items and switch between them. You've got it has like a space theme to it. So you gotta collect energy and oxygen to stay alive. But I dug into that last night for the first time, and that was really great. I enjoyed it. What else did I play recently? I also played a game called Bloodwake, which I got with Hemrock when we were out game hunting. Hemrock described it to me as Twisted Metal with boats. And if I remember, I believe my older brother had a copy of this game that I'd forgotten about. Well, I popped that in and played it, and yep, it's pretty much that. If you took an old Twisted Metal game and you replaced the texture of the concrete with like a water texture and just replaced the models with boat models, there you go. Twisted Metal Boat Edition, minus the intellectual property, so there's no Callisto, any of that stuff. I gotta say, it was pretty fun. I think what I played the most, though, was Project Gotham Racing 2 on the original Xbox. So how this came about was, the weekend came and my kids wanted to play Minecraft on my computer. So here we are in my office, and my kids are looking at the computer playing Minecraft, and I got a little TV that's in the same room, and I wanted to play something that was, didn't have a lot of blood or death or shooting or any of that stuff. I had to play an innocuous game that children could be around. So I chose a racing game. Racing games are good for that. So, Project Gotham Racing 2, I found to be... Oh, hang on a second, I get my sunglasses on. I don't want to get blinded, because then I'll run into something, and that would ruin my day. Alright, I think I'm in good shape now. Project Gotham Racing 2 is a little bit more arcadey than most modern racing games. But it was easier to play than Gran Turismo. Because Gran Turismo games are just terribly hard. So, yeah, that was kind of neat. It had real cars in it. It had some solid objective-based racing, which is pretty cool. But this is definitely a game where Xbox Live is front and center. There's great big download content options, which are grayed out. There's a place where your online racing record would be, which is also grayed out. And yeah, very a fun game for what it was, but you can definitely feel the lack of the original Xbox Live. Whoop, hang on. I was at the gym 2 days ago. And I did my first real strength training session. And let me tell you, I can barely lift my arms up. It went well. I learned a lot. I learned how to do some deadlifting, which is pretty cool. Along with, a lot of other stuff. But now, I find it hard to function in my daily routine. I gotta be able to pick my keys up off the table and put them in my pocket without it hurting. So that's something I'm working on. It feels like a step in the right direction though, health-wise. So that's about all I got for now. Let's do what I normally do now when I wrap these up, and that's if I was absolved of all responsibility, what would I be playing? You know what? Today, it would be Enduro on the Atari 2600, and I got a good reason. Because I was playing it last night. I tweeted this, by the way, if you follow me on Twitter. I have a page in my high score book of scores from Enduro. And they span, there's not a lot of them, but they span back to 2010. That's when the first ones were. So it was like high scores of a game spanning 8 years. And the last thing I played for the evening was a game of Enduro. And I got to the fourth night, or the fourth day. And I feel like if my racing was a little bit cleaner, I could have made it to the fifth day. But it was one of those things where I was so close to beating my high score on this 8-year-old scoreboard. It's very close. And it was kind of hard to quit at that moment. But the thing about Enduro is that it's one of the longer games to sit down and play. A good game of Enduro for me takes like 15 minutes or 20 minutes or so. For an Atari game, that's a really long time. So that's it. Not much for Tuesday, just a couple things I've been playing over the last couple days. I feel like with the deer in the road. I feel like with the opening of those Atari games, I'm in the midst of my Atari fever, but at the same time, I feel like I said pretty much all I can think to say about the Atari games, except that they're great, and I've got a few loose ones available for trade. I'll have to do that list, which ones I have doubles of, sometime when I get back to the house. I think that would be worth publishing out there. Alright, see you guys back at the Panzer Studios. Go love dogs. And we are back in the Panzer Studios. Just a quick heads up, this is a Patreon-sponsored program, so I like to tip my hat to the gentlemen who gave of their resources to make sure we're coming back every week. They are Hemrock, James, Sendu, Tecmo Balls, Darabka, and Six Health of Fury, and the Cartridge Brothers. Thank you guys very much. As a little thanks, I can make sure that the podcast gets up as early as possible. I'm struggling this weekend, doing the best I can, and then also maybe once a month or so we'll have some Patreon exclusive content. So thanks guys very much. And that said, let's check out another chip tune. This was not one from the Chip Win Desk Pop compilation. This was one from Battle of the Bits, and I think this was left over from the. I don't know if it was from Spring Tracks or not, This is called Snowheart Melody, and it's from Galgox, who is a regular contributor over there on Battle of the Bits. A lot of stuff from this guy, so it's good stuff. If you want to copy the MP3, head over to battleofthebits.org. It's up there. You can get it. You guys are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. There was a video that came out on YouTube, I think 2 days ago, from this guy, Nakey Jakey, who's became my favorite YouTuber overnight. And I think that's the case for a lot of people. You ever find one of those YouTube channels where after you watch a video, you gotta go and watch everything, and you just end up powering through every single video? It's always really fun when that happens. Well, that's Nakey Jakey for me. Well, he did a video on old video game commercials, which really took me back a step. He talked about how video game commercials have to kind of think outside the box to get you to want to play a game, especially if, you've only got 30 seconds to see a sales pitch for an experience which could be 100 plus hours. You don't know. So some of the commercials he showcased were the Halo 3 commercial with that was made up of entirely miniatures, and then there was not God of War. Was it God of War? Did he have a God of War commercial? No, Gears of War was a big one. He showed the Gears of War commercial with Mad World in it. A couple of memorable ads. Some of the, I think, the ads that really stick out in my mind when I think back on video game commercials on television are the weirdest ones. The weirder, I think, the more memorable. Specifically, Sega's line of advertising. Sega had a few things that in its ad campaign that I will probably never forget. For one thing, they ended every ad with this paragraph that said, "Welcome to the next level," but there was no spaces, and the characters were broken up so that it was a perfect square of text. Do you guys remember that? Welcome to the next level. Every Sega ad ended with that. That, and also that Sega scream. You know, it would show that on the screen, and then inevitably there'd be Sega somewhere. I'll never forget that, man. Sega was really good at making memorable ads. I think probably another good example, not good example, but another example of an ad that sticks out of my mind is when the original Metal Gear Solid came out. There was a very weird TV spot for it, where they were training a soldier for a suicide mission, so they were giving him like really simple fitness tests. It's like, all right, jump over this cone, okay? Fitness check. Put this circular peg in this circular hole. Great. Intelligence check. Like, why are these tests so simple? Because it's a suicide mission. Very weird. No gameplay at all in that commercial. But it was a television ad for the original Metal Gear Solid. And I think that the fact that it was Metal Gear, I think, is probably what makes it stick out more than the content of the ad. It's very strange. Strange choice for like a seminal game. Like one of those games that really left a ripple effect through video games in a big way. All right, guys and gals, we're back in the studios, getting ready for the Friday Vancast. You ready? Okay, let's go there. Friday morning, and I'm off to work. It's the Vancast, everybody. Man, what a week it's been. What a week indeed. You'll never know. You'll never guess what showed up in the mail yesterday. Oh boy. You guys know Quake's my favorite game. Every time I talk about it, I can feel you pulling away from me. Don't be afraid. Well, I got a big box PC package, like a big box PC game, which was a commercial expansion for Quake, which is pretty sweet. It was called Q-Zone, right? So a long time ago, there was a pack, a box called D-Zone. It was a big box kind of thing, and it had like, I don't know, 200 levels for Doom, and it had like a simple level maker, and it's pretty sweet pack. I bought that complete in box from a used bookstore like 10 years ago, and that box ended up being like $100 now. I don't have the box anymore, but I still have the discs. That's D-Zone. So the company that made that, they made a couple of these. They made an S-Zone, which was full of stuff for SimCity 2, or SimCity 2000. And they made this pack called Q-Zone, which was the same sort of thing for Quake, except there was no level editor. It was just, okay, here's a new episode. It's got a couple new enemies and a new gun. I was super excited to get this in the mail because it was actually sealed. It's still factory sealed. So what I did was, I got the factory sealed box, then I went online and found you could download the contents of the CD directly off of archive.org. So I played it and I still have it sealed, which is cool. But much to my dismay, as a pack for Quake, it was doo-doo. It was really bad. I kind of knew it was going to be bad. I've heard people say that going in, but the levels were all really bland, really like a lot of wide open spaces with no sort of contouring or care put into them. It was really kind of sad. But I don't know. I've wanted this thing for many years, knowing that it existed. So it was cool to finally get my hands on a copy. And I also think it's the only sealed game I own. I don't own anything else factory sealed at all. So that was kind of neat. I was messing around on Twitter last night, and Duke from the Cartridge Brothers, from the Cartridge Club website, he's a fellow Marylander, started posting his a picture of his Atari doubles, right? He's like, hey man, need any of these? And there was a frenzy of like me and maybe 3, possibly 4 other Cartridge Club people saying, yeah man, this one, that one, oh yeah, let's get some of those. I got quite excited actually. So is anything going to come of that? I don't know, probably not. I'm in line with a whole bunch of other people, so we'll have to see, but it was really sweet. It was awesome to see somebody willing to reach out and kind of do a deal apart from some sort of trading website like eBay or anything like that. Because my best deals for the Atari, I think my best deals in general, have all come from that sort of deal. All right? Just people trading things with each other, helping each other out. So I gotta post my own list of doubles for the Atari 2600. I don't have many, but I've got like maybe 5, something like that. It got up to 90 degrees yesterday. The hot weather is definitely here. What else did I get into? Alright, getting away from Quake a little bit. So I've been playing this game called Blood Sports TV, which Alex Swingle got me into. I didn't like it at first because I really didn't click with Dota 2 or League of Legends, and that's what it reminded me of fresh out of the gate. But I think what sets it apart is the fact that there's no it's computer controlled opposition, right? So it's more like a Dota type setting, but against waves of monsters as opposed to against other people who have super precision clicking. So in that respect, I've enjoyed it. I sat down with it. I played 2 matches or 2 different sessions with Alex, playing like a multiplayer kind of party mode. And I sat down with it yesterday, like on my own for the first time. I was like, yeah man, this is actually a really good game. When I got the Ouya, one of the games I was excited for was a game called Killing Floor Calamity. And this is what I wanted Killing Floor Calamity to be. Top-down, co-op, back-to-back action against hordes of enemies. Where it's wave-based, and you're going back to the base to buy weapons between each wave. It's a lot like Killing Floor, actually, and a lot like it. But I think I've got collectively about 3 hours into it, so I still have a lot to learn. Like every time I play it, it's like a huge info dump, taking in a lot of new information and that sort of thing. I just wish I had more time, and that's really what it boils down to. This is one of those games where the people who play it or who have played it, I think, have a lot of time in it, so it becomes difficult to get into unless you're going with someone who's kind of explaining it to you. I tried another game recently, Chivalry. I can't remember exactly how the title is laid out, but it has like a post text to it. But it's the commercial version of Age of Chivalry. There's a guy at work who plays that a lot, who's got hundreds of hours in it. So I tried Chivalry also, some first-person swordplay action, and I just got my butt handed to me. And then I was talking to the guy who's got the hundreds of hours into it, and I was like, man, for me, it's just a walk up to people and die simulator. And he explained, unless you're willing to put in hundreds of hours, it's probably going to stay that way. That's hysterical. Neat game, though. It seemed like it'd be a neat, just like Blood Sports TV, it'd be a neat game to play if you were going in with like 3 or 4 dudes that you knew, right? They were all kind of on your same skill level. Alright. And we got one left. One left that I've been playing recently is, I tried Fortnite again last night. here's the thing. These battle royale games, the player base is like, well, I want to say the player base is split, but the reality is the horse that I chose has lost the race. I've been wanting to play H1Z1, but the player base has died so badly that you can no longer play a decent game unless you're in peak hours. So I had some time to play video games yesterday and this morning actually, and I couldn't play H1Z1 at all because there weren't enough people playing. If I tried to jump into a game, there'd only be 7 people. And the way the game is set up, if you play a game with 7 people instead of 100 or 150, then it's not going to count the win if you win. I actually won a game of H1Z1 against a small handful of people, and it didn't go down in my record as a win, which I'm really upset about actually. So last night I played Fortnite, which I hadn't played in a while. Now, I don't know if I complained about this on the air, but Fortnite had an issue a month back or so where they added these rockets, right? These like radar guided rockets, and they were just game breaking. They were really bad. I had a bad shootout with a guy. It was down to the final 3 in the match, and I was having a shootout with this one guy who kind of built a fortress for himself. And I had him, man. I was on it, right? I had tons of equipment. I had him on the run. I know I had dealt damage to him, so it was just a matter of time. But what he did was he built a little fortress with the way the Fortnite building mechanics work. You can like throw up walls and stuff to hide behind. So he built a fortress, and then he pulled out one of those overpowered rockets and fired it straight up into the air. And then it curved and came down and killed me. And that made me rage quit, and I didn't play it again for like a month. So last night I got together with an old friend of mine. We played Fortnite again. So they've made some drastic changes since then. First and foremost, those rockets that kind of broke the game for me are gone, thankfully. And they've been replaced by one-shot fortress deploying grenades. You throw down this grenade and it instantly builds like a fortress around you. Which, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I think that's kind of lame, but I also think it's way better than the radar-guided rockets. There were lots of other small changes too that I don't think are worth going into unless we were really like this became the Fortnite podcast. Like little nitty-gritty changes. They improved the way the shooting works. Fortnite is a game that has really, really wonky shooting. I think it's kind of famous for it. There's videos of people standing right in front of each other, and one guy puts the reticle right on his opponent, pulls the trigger, and the bullet doesn't connect. Not because of server-client issues, but because it has sort of like a random dice roll if the bullet's going to go on target, as opposed to Counter-Strike, where there's a spray pattern that you can learn to control. So supposedly they kind of locked that down a little bit, improved that somewhat. Although I really got my butt handed to me last night, so I couldn't say one way or the other. Not with practical experience, anyway. That's been gaming in a nutshell for me lately. Quake, a little Fortnite, a little Bloodsports TV. I also had 2 Sega Genesis games come in the mail yesterday. Sonic the Hedgehog ROM hacks. This is all in a video that's going to come out probably next week. But I gave those a quick spin, and they were pretty cool. Sonic Mega Mix, and then Sonic Retro Sonic Collection, I think it's called. Those are pretty. They're both pretty extensive. Pretty extensive Sonic the Hedgehog hacks. But yeah. All right, so let's do this. I am on my way to work. I think we're going to sign off of the Vancast, but let's do what I have been doing every time I sign off of Vancast, and that's ask this question. If all responsibilities were absolved and taken care of for a day, and I were to turn right back around and drive home, what would I play? I want to play Bloodsports. Whew. I want to play Bloodsports TV, but I think only if Swingle was on, and I don't think he would be there this time of day. So I'd probably pop on Steam, see if I saw him, and if I didn't, I don't know. Maybe I'd play Fortnite. Fortnite's not a great game, but that's what I played last night. So I don't know. I had a good time last night, even though we lost really bad. So I don't know. Maybe I would give Fortnite a try. I don't know. Be that as it may, for me, it's time to head into work. And for you guys, you're going back to Panzer Studios, where it's oh so comfortable. I'll see you guys there. And it is oh so comfortable here, back in the Panzer Studios. And we're going to do the bank, we're going to do the fail bag. Alright, look guys. This is a small operation. It's just you here. It's just me here. It's just us. Okay? This is the part of the show where I like to take advantage of that fact and just communicate a little bit. That's what this is. This is just about you and me touching base and making this something personal. So we're going to start with an email that I got from our good buddy Hemrock, who had some interesting things to say. And he wrote, "Hey CF, I'm digging the chiptunes. Good stuff. The first one, dubbed Growing Distance by Flory Baba, was especially chill. Thanks for sharing that and keeping the bebop clicks and pops rolling. By the way, where do you usually get your tunage from? You spoke of shareware. Since it's shareware, would you be willing to share it on TCR website or put a link where it might be available? Thanks for sharing the Baldur's Gate promo. That was cool." So, Low Fat Jello, aka the HVGN, aka Stop Skeletons from Fighting, has put up an emotional and celebratory 100,000 subscriber special vid. Any thoughts on the HVGN looking back over the past decade or so? Here's the link if you're interested. I know you're on an Atari kick, and for better or worse, Atari has recently announced they're opening up pre-orders on the 30th of May for the upcoming BCS on Indiegogo. So it seems for about $200 you can reserve your very own Atari-themed Android box that will hopefully come out a year later. Thoughts? Do you think it's possible that this may never come out? Why is a seemingly large company like Atari turning to crowdfunding? Civilization 2 is an amazing game, certainly still in my top 3 games of all time. For a multiplayer, may I suggest trying out a scenario such as the 100 Years' War, or War of the Mediterranean, or La Belle Epoque. Excuse me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. This gets the game up and going quick. I'm totally down for some play by email. Let me know what you think about these scenarios, or any others you might know that you'd like to try. Half Price Books is a gem of a bookstore chain. As you pointed out, got a lot of them in Texas. It's a great place to find books, DVDs, and music. Not the best place to look for good deals on retro games. Perhaps the exception of PS2 and the original Xbox. I endearingly refer to them as half-price books, overpriced games. Well, keep rolling retro, my friend. I'm rooting for you. Thanks, Hemrock. You know I always enjoy reading your emails. You got some good stuff in this one, so let's do it differently. I usually start at the bottom and work up. I'm going to do it backwards. I'm going to start at the top down. So the first thing you said was where I get my chiptunes. Since I've been updating TigerClawTV.com a lot more, I plan to do exactly that. I'm going to share the compilations that I find, where I find them, and whatnot. And that begins with Chipwin Desk Pop compilation. It's not a big article. It's not an extensive review of music and analysis and all that stuff. It's just, hey, here's the album cover. Here's where to get the album. Here's some tracks I liked. That's it. A quick blurb. But if you check out the website, you can go get yourself a copy. That's something I think that the chiptune segment has sorely missed, especially like when I do when I'm doing like random chiptunes from Battle of the Bits or something like that. There's got to be a way for you guys to go get the MP3s without having to dig it up yourselves. So that's one place. I have a little folder in my quick links. I get them from chipmusic.org, which I believe I haven't been there in a while. That's how I used to get them. ucollective.org is still under refurbishment, but I still check that place out every once in a while. Pterodactyl Squad is another one. ptesquad.com. That's a net label rather than like a chiptune community. So whenever they have a release, I tend to at least talk about it on the air. they were doing a release every month for a while, and I thought those were awesome. Before I found Battle of the Bits, that was where my chiptunes were coming from. But then they went like 2 or 3 months without a release, and then they put one out recently, and it was a single song that was like 15 minutes or something like that. Nothing I could play on the air. So Pterodactyl Squad is a good place, especially if you've never been there. It'll be like going to 8-Bit People's for the first time. Huge catalog of albums. They're all free. You can just go pluck some, look at the album covers, check it out. I recommend Pterodactyl Squad. There's some really good stuff there. Also, I still check out 8-Bit People's, although they haven't had a release. Not a single one since Tiger Claw Radio rebooted. But they've got some good stuff. But the real place I get chiptunes is Battle of the Bits. battleofthebits.org. I know that you went there in particular once, and I know you didn't want to sign up, but it's, I would say it's worth it. Just sign up, you can get the tracks. Another thing I've been doing lately is looking at a Bandcamp website. I go to the bottom and then just look at some of the recommended ones, and I just click around, see if I can find anything new that way. I found a band called the Boji Boys that I really like. They're not chiptunes. They're more like punk rock, like traditional classical punk rock, which I thoroughly enjoy. They had what was it? Weekend Rocker was the album. That was an awesome album. If you watch the Talking Nintendo or the da na 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 da na da, that's the Boji Boys. I'll have to play them just for kicks here on the air. I think that would be awesome. I'm pretty sure I could do that without YouTube destroying my channel. So Battle of the Bits is one. Bandcamp is another. There's some artists that I have subscribed to that I get emails for, and that's really it. Apart from that, I'm just like you. I have my ear to the ground. I'm always looking for new places to get chiptunes. This Chipwin account, I believe that's a net label. Chipwin releases compilations. You can get a compilation, you download it, and it's like 20 tracks, 20 song mixtape. That's a great place to go to get chiptunes. So yeah, man, I also know that once in a while you slide me a link when you find something worth listening to. I think sharing what we find with each other is an incredibly important step in the music hunting. So yeah, that's it, man. All right, what else did you ask me about? The Baldur's Gate promo, which I thought was amazing. I was so into that when I found that. You talked about HVGN. Okay, so those of you guys who don't know, Derek Alexander was like my hero on the internet around the time I first started. I started making videos before I found him, but once I found him, he was the guy I wanted to be like. In his HVGN days, I thought he was the coolest. Then, right around the time the RW Force came to a close, probably around 2011, after I was done with Retroware TV, I kind of stopped watching him. I remember at one point I got soured on his work. I think it was around the time Mega Man 10 was coming out or something like that. Something soured me on him. I don't know what it was. But I was soured for a while. He was doing a lot of podcasting and stuff like that. And then I kind of rediscovered him later on, halfway through his Stop Skeletons from Fighting phase. So, first things first, he's been doing this a long time. So my hat goes off to him for that. I, like many people, appreciate the old days just a little bit more. But I don't think that's his fault. He's older now, right? He's older now. He's got his girlfriend or whatever who he's with. In those early days, he was in college. He was, young, sliding around, being that age where you can make stupid mistakes and it's okay. You know what I mean? So there's a difference, I think, in the energy that comes with age. But I appreciate the work that he's put in. Good for him that he managed to get to a place where he can do this for a living, which, is awesome. But yeah, I was happy to see that. I was happy to see that, and I was glad that it made me happy. Because, He worked hard for that. So good on him. All right, Atari box. You want to talk about the Atari box? I want to like the Atari box so bad. I looked at it. It's $200 for a unit, but then you have to buy. It doesn't come with a regular controller. It only comes with the old joystick. So the regular controllers, I think are gonna be $50. So to get a playable unit, you've got to pay $250. Not so bad for a console, but I would, in order for me to consider this, I'd have to buy the unit, I'd have to buy a regular controller, I'd have to buy a second regular controller so that I could play with my son. That would be the only acceptable scenario for me. So $300 for this thing is where I would come in price-wise. As of yet, the only game we've seen running on it is Centipede. I want to believe that this is a real thing that's really going to happen and everybody's going to be proven wrong. But I've already been taken for a ride a couple of times based on that. The people like to compare this thing to the Ouya. I think that I got stung real hard on the Ouya. So, on the other hand, when they were announcing it, nobody thought it was going to be real. And now, at least we've seen it roll Centipede. At least we know it's, there's some sort of prototype. So, let's see. Let's wait and see. I will not be pre-ordering. That does not mean I'm not going to buy it. I think that's the best way I can say it. I am going to wait and see. If they have a real product, then I will jump on board a little bit later on down the line. I would like to see some hardware come out that's not one of the big three, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo. I think right now, like it or not, Atari, or I think the way Hughes Johnson says, the company calling themselves Atari, they are our best bet right now. For better or for worse, they're the best we got. So, God bless them. I hope they can pull it together and truly, really release a system. Civilization 2, you talked about some, what do we got here? We got some scenarios. War of the Mediterranean, please. That's what I'm up for. That sounds like the same type of scenario that some other similar games I've played would feel familiar to me. War of the Mediterranean has piqued my interest. And Half Price Books is awesome. So thanks for that email that I was able to just pull apart and get a solid 10 minutes out of. Let's turn now to the YouTube comments, one of my favorite places to go. And how I know my YouTube channel is truly dead is in the fact that I get no negative YouTube comments. They just don't happen. So Hemrock leaves a comment on the PS2 multiplayer party box video. He says, I wish we had time to play some of these. And you know what, me too. Especially that Metal Slug 4 and 5 disc. I think that would have been fun. Demez writes on the Talking Nintendo Dragon Warrior video, my favorite thing on a new RPG back then was starting out and just leaving town and grinding levels, trying to squeeze every bit of XP, getting as low as possible hit points while buying no potions, and then going back to town with 1 hit point, barely surviving from my slime battles, barely making it to the save and heal, rinse and repeat until I'm stronger, and finally bought the best gear the first town has before I ventured forth. I beat Dragon Warrior 1, 3, and 4 on NES, so good times. Number 2, I got far, but I got stuck, lost, and no guide to help me, and no internets back then, kids. Yeah, I got stuck on Dragon Warrior 2 as well. I think that's the only one that I got stuck on and didn't just lose interest and give up at. This is cool. NLX leaves a comment on the Leisure Suit Larry questions video. I made a video like almost a year ago about Leisure Suit Larry, the questions that it asked you when you first booted up, and he writes, when I played this as a kid, 12 years old back then, living in the Netherlands, most of the questions were not really stuff my friends and me knew, but we knew how to read and speak English without the internet. These questions can be very tricky and frustrating to get in the game. When we made a list, then we made a list of all the correct answers. That's funny, I did the same thing. Only many years later, I heard that Alt-Control-X button. That'll get you in, yep. Amy McLean leaves on the vinyl video. She says, I love a bit of Sinatra. You know what, Amy? Me too. Sinatra is awesome. All right, here we are getting called out. Death Adder writes, well, what happened to you mentioning that about not liking Metallica in some form of TNR media over the past 5 years that I vaguely remember? Well, sir, I'm glad you got some cool stuff for your birthday, bro. Kill 'Em All is a fun album for sure. Let me tell you, Death Adder, I left this in a text comment, but I'll break it down for you. The first time I ever heard Metallica was when Load came out. Tear me open on the air. That was my first experience with Metallica, and to this day, I think it was not so good. And I went from there to directly into the closure of Napster, and them suing one of their own fans, and that's how I know Metallica. I didn't know about the Cliff Burton era until, pretty recently, actually. Got into the Cliff Burton era. I kind of knew about Master of Puppets. I knew that was an awesome album. But, I went just in the last 6 months, I got a hold of Ride the Lightning on vinyl, which I think I only bought Ride the Lightning because it was $10, and most of the vinyls are $20. And then from there, I got Kill 'Em All, which I also got on sale. Kill 'Em All is usually like $20, but I got it for $11. So I got those albums because they were on sale. Really, is the honest truth. But yeah, those are both awesome. I've listened to Injustice for All. I've heard that on the internet many times, but I don't have it on vinyl yet. I like those early years. I think the first 4 albums from Metallica, they really had something. And then, I don't blame them for making bad albums after that, or making albums that I wasn't interested in after that. They were able to make money doing it, and I'm sure they liked doing it. And truth be told, if I was them, if I was in one of those bands like that, I would do the same thing. I would ride it as far as I could. It's not their fault they can't, make a masterpiece anymore. But so that's Metallica. Just another band. I mean, I don't think they're gods or anything. I don't even think they're the best metal band, but they've got some really good songs. All right, what's on my shelf says, do you have a list of 2,600 games that you can share? It would make it easier to recommend 2,600 games that are slightly more interesting. I recommend checking out Mogul Maniac. I believe it was the first FPS ever made. And you know what, dude? You left this, and I left a text comment, and I never did type up a list. I'm really sorry. I think that would be an awesome thing to do. And you know what? I'm so interested in Atari 2600 right now. This is like what I want. I'll tell you, dude. On Twitter, the Cartridge Club guys, they had, I think I might have said this in a Bandcast, so bear with me. They had a thread going of some Atari talk. This guy, who lives actually in my state, took a picture of like a shelf at a game store, and he was like, "Does anybody want any of these?" I thought he was taking a picture of his doubles, so I got really into it. I was like, "I don't have this one. I don't have this one. I don't have this one. I don't have this one." Sent him a big list in the DMs. And he was like, "Those aren't my doubles. That's just the game store." I was upset. I was like, "Oh, can we get a cash buyout? Can I send you some money?" But yeah, that it had me excited for some Atari. And any game I don't have right now is on my get list. So I think even if it's a bad game, I still kind of want it. I wouldn't buy it by itself, but like, all right, to give you an example. I don't have Pitfall 2 yet. Let's say I bought a lot of games that had Pitfall 2. I would still be happy if that lot had bowling in it. I'm not necessarily after bowling on the Atari, but I don't own a copy of it. So to find it in a lot, I'd be pretty happy. I don't know. I think the bad games for Atari 2600 certainly have their charm. You know what I mean? I wouldn't go out of my way to get some of those games, but there was a lot I saw recently that had Cookie Monster Munch or Cookie Monster's Crunch or something like that, like a Cookie Monster game. And I looked it up on YouTube and watched a Let's Play, and of course it was terrible, because how would it be anything else? But still kind of wanted it. I don't know. That's one of those things I kind of got to keep that in check, because otherwise I'm going to have a gigantic Atari collection, and they're all going to be unplayable games. So, you know what I really need on the Atari is a paddle. That's something I'm really after. Okay. Desm101 writes, Twinkle Tail is awesome and hard as hell. Reminds me of Elemental Master. Another import title to check out is Memono Hunter Yoko. Like a better version of Valis. And then he added 49 minutes and 40 seconds. Yes, that's me exactly. Okay, so he's responding to my comment that he sounds like an older gentleman, like 30s plus. And he says, that's me exactly, almost pushing 40, now, and was often left happily at arcades as a child instead of babysitters. A total arcade rat in the 80s. Man, you are the kind of person that I want to hear from. Not these young kids that are like, "Hey, man, I got these NES games on on eBay." God bless them, but like the stories, I think, are really where the valuable stuff is. So yeah, I would be interested to hear some of the stuff that went on in those arcades. As for Memono Hunter Yoko, I'll look it up. It sounds great. I like Valis. Valis is awesome. So if it's a better Valis game, count me in. Light Studios says Sims 2 on the PS2 added direct control. Here's some obscure info. Sims 2 is on PSP, or Sims 2 on PSP is hilarious. You know what, Sendu? I still have never owned a PSP. I played one once when they had a display set up at Best Buy, but that was many years ago. Alright, boys and girls. I'm out of time. I don't have time to even put the song up. I gotta get this done and get it up. Otherwise, there's not gonna be any TCR this week. So, I'm sending you all the well wishes in the world that I can muster up. I'm rooting for you real hard. Keep doing what you gotta do. And just keep at it. And you know what? I'll do the same thing. We'll meet up next Monday and we'll exchange notes. Alright, guys. Have a good week.